What is journalism? It's my belief that journalism is when you do research and you find out the truth and the facts and the information and present it in a compelling way. I'm a Canadian. My name's Greg. In this video, I'm going to be reacting to a CBC news report in regards to the Epoch Times. I actually received the Epoch Times in my mailbox. I am not a subscriber to them either. They've been advertising a lot. I've been seeing a lot of that on YouTube as well. And in this edition, it's all about the coronavirus. And they mention, they say some pretty accusatory things towards the Communist Chinese Party. And what I did appreciate is they kind of have a big timeline in the center spread of the newspaper that shows the development of how countries did prepare and respond to the COVID-19 crisis, and how certain countries like Canada didn't really prepare or respond that quickly in the grand scheme of the timeline of things. And I'm hoping, because CBC is, state-funded journalism, I'm hoping that they're going to do their journalistic duty and break down the Epoch Times and the information in it to show us why it is so untrue, or why it truly is not accurate or is misleading. But let's watch this clip here from the CBC, all about the Epoch Times.
It calls itself North America's fastest growing newspaper, the Epoch Times. It is publishing misleading information about the coronavirus, and it's being delivered straight to mailboxes right across Canada. That's making some recipients uncomfortable.
I love the CBC. It's making some recipients uncomfortable. Tonight at 9. Canadians feel uncomfortable. Right off the top, they're saying misleading.
About the coronavirus. Publishing misleading information.
Okay, so it's misleading. We're saying it's misleading. Hopefully we're going to find out why it's misleading. And oh man, these uncomfortable Canadians. This sounds like an exciting story.
Uncomfortable. Katie Nicholson looks into it for us today.
Lisa Armstrong doesn't subscribe to the Epoch Times, but like thousands of Canadians, she got a copy in her mailbox.
I'm sorry. Can look how Canadian this is. Lisa walking to her mailbox to check the mail. We're on like a side street somewhere in like rural Canada by the looks of it. Tonight at 9, Lisa checks her mail. Oh my God, she found uncomfortable information in the mailbox. Oh man. I wanted to make this video because when I first watched this, I was power laughing on the floor. I could not breathe. It was just so funny to me.
Lisa Armstrong doesn't subscribe to the Epoch Times, but like thousands.
What is this? What is this? Clearly staged, but anyway.
Of Canadians, she got a copy in her mailbox.
But it did seem to allude to conspiracy theories, like, maybe it was manufactured, this virus was manufactured in a lab. Well, no, we know scientifically that's just not true.
Thank you, Lisa. Finally, I'm assuming Lisa is a scientist or knows about the, virology of COVID-19 and how scientifically we know it was bat soup. I did not realize that. I didn't know that it was scientifically proved. I guess we know now. Thank you, CBC, for clearing that up for me. That scientifically we know. I'm looking forward to when they debunk why the information from the Epoch Times is wrong. But thank you for clarifying that, Lisa.
The special edition of the paper explores the idea that COVID-19 was created as a bioweapon in a lab by the Chinese military, and argues that the virus should be named after the Communist Party of China.
And it really feels racist and inflammatory. And right now, we're...
Of course it seems racist. It seems racist. I mean, this is really dumb. This is like a really dumb take, I think, because they're accusing a political party and a communist party of doing something malicious, the Epoch Times. They're accusing a communist party, the ideas they have being dangerous. This is the whole idea, that they have ill intentions. And Lisa's like, this is racist. They're accusing this communist. It's like, no, Lisa. See, China's a big place. There's a lot of different Chinese people who live in China, and some of them are part of the Communist Chinese Party. That does not mean all Chinese people. Like, do we not see how ignorant that is? I mean, anyway, but hey, then again, this is Lisa. Lisa knows scientifically it was not made in the biolab. We know scientifically that it's bat soup. So you know what? I shouldn't question Lisa. She seems to be all-knowing. She is on the CBC checking her mail, after all.
We're all scared. Playing on those fears is a very dangerous thing to do at this time.
Playing on those fears is a dangerous thing to do at this time.
It calls itself North America's fastest growing newspaper, the Epoch Times. It is publishing misleading information about the coronavirus, and it's being delivered straight to mailboxes right across Canada. That's making some recipients uncomfortable. Katie.
Oh my God, yeah. Man, playing up the fear, that would be a terrible thing. Terrible thing to do that, wouldn't it? Terrible thing.
Playing on those fears is a very dangerous thing to do at this time.
We're protecting this postal worker's identity. He says because of its subject matter, he and his colleagues aren't comfortable delivering the...
They're not comfortable. Canadians are not comfortable with this information, and I can't wait until they reveal why this information is so misleading. Let's see how uncomfortable
Epoch Times.
It makes me feel like, humanity is facing an existential crisis, and I'm being forced to hand out weapons in a cage fight.
Oh my God. Okay, first of all, this guy sounds like he's crying.
I feel like, humanity is facing an existential crisis, and I'm being forced to hand out weapons in a cage fight.
I'm being forced to handle weapons in a cage fight. Wow. This is really making people uncomfortable. Thankfully, hopefully, CBC is going to tell us why these Epoch Times is like weapons in a cage fight, because apparently it's misleading. They've told us it's misleading, so I can't wait to tell us about how factually inaccurate the information is. Let's keep watching.
The Epoch Times is published by Falun Gong supporters, the spiritual dissident Chinese group that has locked horns with China's ruling Communist Party for decades. Media watchers say...
Okay, so they're known to have been critical of Chinese communists, the Chinese Communist Party. So, okay. I mean, I guess that would make sense because it sounds like, based on the Hong Kong protest that happened recently, it was the largest protest in human history. It seems like there is an issue with press freedom in communist China. So, I mean, I think it would kind of make sense that the Epoch Times exists to be critical of the Communist Party of China. I think that kind of makes sense to me. I don't know. So let's see why apparently these people are lying or it's misleading information. I'm waiting for it.
Say it's not clear where its funding comes from, and as a publication, it's hard to classify.
Ooh. See, hard to classify. That doesn't mean anything to the average person. It's hard to classify. For me, like what I hear is, oh, you couldn't pin them with anything. You couldn't find any factual inaccuracies. You couldn't find anything that was wrong in their. Because if the CBC, if anybody were to find something in the Epoch Times that was a flagrant lie, or truly misleading, or truly inaccurate information, not well researched or not accurate or false or a lie or fake news, I think they would have put it in here. The fact that they said it's hard to classify, that basically means we couldn't really catch them with anything that's actually makes us allowed to, say a certain thing about them, because, that would be libel. That would be slanderous if they were to kind of call them fake news when it's not. So the fact that they said it's hard to classify, to me, that means, we couldn't really find anything to accuse these people of that's actually lying or, wrong information. So not so good. Not so good.
When you have an outlet that always has one position on one particular story or country or issue, that's
or newspaper.
not journalism. And so it's hard to say, is it propaganda?
So
I love how we get a clip from somebody. You don't even know who this is. Hey, we're just cutting away to somebody
Outlet that always has one position on one particular story or country or issue.
I kind of like how the CBC is like never really that critical of Justin Trudeau and always really critical of conservatives. Huh. Interesting.
That's not journalism.
It's not journalism. Oh, it's...
And so it's hard to say, is it propaganda?
Propaganda.
So,
see, what's interesting about that statement is I don't live in China. I've never lived in, of course I don't live in China, but I've never lived in China. And I feel as though like if there was a communist Chinese party that ruled the country, I feel like it would really make sense given the Hong Kong protest, given the like lack of freedoms that citizens have. I feel like, being consistently critical of those in power, I feel like that kind of would make sense. Calling it like propaganda outright, of course, people are going to be biased. I can agree with that. I can agree that, propaganda does exist. But I feel like in this scenario of living in a communist country, the fact that there is this dissident voice that is being critical of them, I think it's very interesting because the Chinese Communist Party creates their propaganda. I'm sure there's people making propaganda all over the place. I might even be watching propaganda right now.
how should Canadians view the information in the paper? This
Yes! CBC! I love it. How should Canadians feel about this? Please, CBC, tell me. Tell me what to think. Tell me how to feel. I can't think for myself. I'm just some Canadian. I don't know what's going on. I'm uncomfortable right now. Tell me. Tell me how to feel. CBC, please tell me how to feel.
the information in the paper. This professor says while some of it is accurate, readers should keep this in mind.
This is an anti-Chinese government media outlet, so you have to be careful that there could be some exaggerations.
Okay, so there's some exaggerations, although some of it is accurate. We're almost at the end of the video, so I don't know. I was looking for the researched intel. I want to hear why it's wrong. Tell me why the Epoch Times is wrong. I haven't heard anything as to why. I've heard people talk about propaganda. I've heard people allude to conspiracy theories. I've heard a lot of uncomfortable Canadians. It's very problematic. But in terms of the actual information, the actual research on what they're talking about, there hasn't been one bit in this whole 2 minutes actually talking about any facts or info on the events and what was actually published. It's hard to classify, apparently.
Email to CBC News, the Epoch Times says it stands by the work that it publishes. As for Canada Post, it says it is legally obligated to deliver the paper, and if people don't like it, they can always drop it in the recycling bin.
Oof. Did the Canada Post actually say that? Hey, we're legally obligated to send this to you, but if you don't want it, you can just throw it in the recycling bin. And, wow.
Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
There it is, folks. There it is. I asked at the beginning, what is journalism? Pretty sure journalism is when you do the research and you find out the factual accuracies or inaccuracies of information and present it in a compelling way. The CBC here has created a compelling story to basically say that the Epoch Times is propaganda. You should throw it in the trash. They were pretty short on, actual details on why it's false information. And because it's hard to classify, I don't know. They weren't lying, they were lying. Like it's just very, man. It's very interesting, I think. Anyway, let me know if you liked this video. As I said, I really wanted to make this because when I watched this clip originally, I was rolling on the floor laughing. I thought it was so funny from the opening clip of I feel uncomfortable. I'm checking my mail. I just feel like it's really silly. But this is what 1.6, is it $1.8 billion of taxpayer money gets us? It gets us this, I don't know. Is this useful? Is this video even useful to anyone other than telling people, hey, you're uncomfortable, throw it in the trash, don't read information that isn't ours, okay? That's propaganda. We're not propaganda. That's propaganda, and we are not propaganda, okay? We love China. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.